Hello, you're watching Much Ado About Something, and I'm Donna. And of course, it's spring and it's time to start the seeds. It's not too late to start your seeds. It's been cold here, and so I'm a little delayed, according to some people. I just don't have enough room inside to start my seeds really early. So I got this little greenhouse. You see me and Donald in our last video, we put this little greenhouse up, and this is where I start my seeds. This is the part of the greenhouse that dilapidates right here. I have to replace this every year. If you see in the greenhouse, you can see there's a shelf on either side. We took the old shelf from our old greenhouse and put it here in the middle so that we would have more room for our seed trays. What I've got going on here is this tray here. This is a tray of blanket flowers and red nasturtiums. I'm keeping it moist, and that's one tray that I have in here. In this little rotisserie chicken tray, I've planted basil. When I lift this up, you can see that the basil has come up. It's best to plant tiny seeds in a flat like this, and then you can prick them apart once they're big enough. They're not quite big enough yet. I'm still going to keep this lid over them and keep them moist. And over here in this area, you'll see the elderberries that I'm rooting for friends. They're doing well. They've perked up some. But what I wanted to share with you today is like the storage of the seeds. This is the tote that I store most of my seeds in. I have the seeds that I buy from the stores, and then I have the seeds that I collect out of my garden every year. And sometimes that friends give me, but most of these are from my garden. You know, I like to keep them in the paper bags because it lets the seeds breathe. If you put them in plastic, sometimes if they're not completely dried out, they'll mold. So I always put mine in some form of paper. This is little paper seed packets I bought from Target one year. And this is how I store them. Now it's time to get them all out. These are the ones that I bought over time. It's time to get all these out and start planting these seeds. So what I do is try to go through them and separate what I have here. I separate herbs, flowers, vegetables, all the things that I have, like that I have my categories, and then I plant them. I try to plant the oldest seeds that I have first. I use a little paper clip method. Like if I open this packet of seeds last year, I go ahead and open it and take out what I need of it. And then what seeds I have left, I'll just leave them in the original packaging so that you can remember what you have. And I'll roll them down and just use a simple paper clip to keep them from falling out in the seed tote until I'm ready to use them the next year. Let's pick out a couple of seeds to plant. Let's do some beefsteak tomato, some true black brandywine. We'll just plant a few tomatoes. I've already got some basil going. We'll do some of the tomato tomatoes. Over here you'll see I have another tote. And in this tote is basically supplies. This is the tote I started out with years ago. And I had narrowed it down to this for a long time. But then my seed collecting, my love of seeds escalated, so I needed another tote. But in this tote you'll find the markers, and if you look through my videos, there's a video on how to make plant markers from recycled materials. And that's what these are. These are the plant markers. And then the paper clips for the seeds, scissors to cut off seed tops, marker to write what your seed plants are, and then I have other seeds that I've collected over time. And then containers that'll be good to collect seeds later. Friends pass these containers down to me. I also have the paper bags that I keep over the year. Whenever I get a paper bag, or somebody knows that I keep them, they'll save them for me. I'll roll these up and put them in this seed container, and then I'll have plenty of paper bags, recycling, reusing, to put the seeds in for the next year. Well, let me take you down. Let me show you how I start these seeds. Well, here I have seed trays. These are some that I've already planted right here. I've got some bitter melon, red nasturtium, and some dark purple basil that I've already planted. These trays I saved from last year. I try to keep them as long as I can because they're single-use plastic, and I'm trying to get the most use out of them that I can. So I've probably used these for about 3 years. Here you can see this one's starting to break down. You see where it's cracked? You can see the crack, and that's why I have to buy new ones sometimes to replace them. But I do try and use these and get as much life out of them as I possibly can. I bought some new ones. These are $1 a piece, so there's eight here. 8 sets of sales and a tray. So this was $16 for these 8 trays, but they'll last probably 3 years. But one of my very favorite ways of starting my seeds are in these great foam cups, these styrofoam cups. I get these at Walmart. They're inexpensive, and I just punch holes in the bottoms. They are one of the best ways to start seeds because they hold heat. They're styrofoam. When you get them warm, they'll hold your heat. I know a lot of people don't want to use styrofoam, but you can also reuse styrofoam. Here's some that I've had several years that I've reused. So it's not like that styrofoam has to be a single use for this seed saving. You can use them more than once. Now let's talk about this table that I'm at here today. My husband made this potting table for me. If you can see, the legs are made out of 2x4s. He put wire mesh across the top so that when I pot my plants, the soil, the mess that I inevitably make, it goes down through here and it goes down on the ground. And I like to use it down here so that I'm not making a mess all over the deck. Now, what soil medium do I use? I use the Natural Organic Seed Starting Mix. This is 12 quarts for $5 at Walmart. I usually use about 3 bags for the amount of seeds that I start every year. You can pay more for it at other places, depending on where you get it. Now I'm going to show you 3 different kinds of seeds I got going on here. I've got tomato, cherry tomatoes, beefsteak tomato, and the True Black Brandywine. That's what I'll be starting in these 3 little packs that I have going on here. Now, I normally just put my soil in dry, and then I wet it really good when I'm finished planting the seeds. But I did try the method where you wet the soil first. And I think that method might be a better method in a lot of ways. But for this video's sake, we're just going to go ahead and fill our trays ourselves with dry soil. I'm not so sure which method is the neatest. I don't know if putting it in dry or moistening this potting soil, the seed starting soil, and then putting it in the cells, I don't know which one is the least messy. I think whenever I moisten it, I usually have it all over my hands. So I think maybe a lot of the reason that a lot of people advise you to go ahead and moisten your soil first is because it can sometimes be a little bit hard to get this good and moistened after it's in its cells with its seeds. And before you put the seeds in and before you put it in the cells, you can mix it with your hands or mix it up better. I think maybe that's the reason it's advised to go ahead and wet your seed starting soil before you get started. Okay, I'm going to pause for a minute and go get the water. I forgot to mention, you can get these at the Dollar Tree, these little pots. Or you can buy them at other places too, but the Dollar Tree usually has them, and they're, $1.25. So I don't know if that's cheaper or not. I've had these for a few years. These are not my favorite things to use. I'd rather use the cups. These seem to dry out a lot faster for me. All right, now that we've got our our starting soil, seed starting soil in our cells, I'm just going to go ahead and put a little water on them. And it does look a little dry, but it helps wet down underneath there before we get started. I'm going to go ahead and label what we're making, because if you don't do that beforehand, sometimes you can forget what you're making and where it's at. And once it's all covered up with that dirt, it all looks the same. So labeling is an excellent idea. So these are the 3 seeds we'll be planting right now. The Brandywine, True Black tomato, the cherry tomatoes, and the beefsteak tomato. So we've got these labeled now. And we can go ahead and start planting our seeds. This is where the scissors come in handy. Just cut off at the top of your seed packet. And you can see in this packet, this is how many seeds that you get. So I just take the back of the pen and just make little indentions into my seed tray. I don't plant my tomatoes really deep at this stage. I just make little indentions. And we'll see how many of these come up, and then we'll worry about thinning them out later. I'm just going to go ahead and put these in this pack. And then I'll just take my fingers and just kind of rake over those indentions and close up those little indentions. Now we'll do the cherry tomatoes. And you just do the same process. These cherry tomatoes are a pretty prolific tomato plant. I never really have to worry too much about how often these come up. You make your little indentions. There's quite a few seeds in these. You maybe get up to 2 seeds per little indention. And we're going to have some of these left over. So we just put them back in the seed pack that they originally came in so you'll know what they are. Just roll down the top and put a paper clip over. And we'll have these to try later. Now let me just go over here and cover these up. And we'll start on the beefsteak tomatoes. You just repeat the process of making the little indentions. And putting your seeds in. And it looks like I'm going to have just enough seeds for this tray. I still have one cell here left to plant. So I'm just going to go ahead and spray these down really good. With this spray bottle of water. And see, that gets them plenty wet enough. So if you don't want to deal with the mixing the whole thing before you mixing the starter soil with water and dealing with a wet mixture, you can just spray them and wet them after you get them planted. I'm going to take these up here and put them in the greenhouse. And there we go. We've got some seeds started. Well, I've got a lot more seeds to plant here today. Thank you for joining me today. And like always, until next time.